Right, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the video today. Now, we're going to talk about Tottenham. Where do we start? I know what you're thinking. Arsenal fan doing a video on Tottenham is clearly to have a laugh. I had my laughing yesterday. I done my laughing yesterday. It's all out of my system. As a football fan, Arsenal fan, wonderful to see. Nothing changes, does it? It's same old Tottenham. Now the camera's on, we're going to talk from a neutral perspective, because at the end of the day, what does the audience get if you're just another Arsenal fan laughing at Tottenham? It's boring. I can do that in my spare time. I'm not going to do a YouTube video over it. I'm going to talk seriously about this football club because it is rotten to the core. And every Tottenham fan that will disagree with that is deluded. And it's everything that Daniel Levy probably wants. He wants these suckers, these guys who are just going to buy into this glamorous little big stadium they've got. Look at Tottenham, it's the best stadium in London. It's so good. He thinks that's enough. And if the fans think that's enough, then they're just exactly what Daniel Levy wants. The real Tottenham fans that actually want to see their team improving, it's an embarrassingly run football club. Let's be honest. I want to get into the game first of all. So first of all, just like every Tottenham game this season, because I've got to say, in every Tottenham game I've seen this season, Tottenham haven't deserved to lose any of them. I think they've deserved to win every single one, apart from maybe the Arsenal game, when I think maybe it was an even game. I'd say a draw was a fair result, but they ended up losing that. So how can Tottenham, play better in most of their games this season and only have 10 points? Is it 10 points they have? How can they only have 10 points? Seriously, it's just that there's an underlying issue with Tottenham. We're going to go into it. So first half against Brighton, as they have been this season, they were brilliant, played brilliant football, and they're going to give a lot of teams a hiding this season. But the big games against better teams, they're just going to fold. I know they beat United last week. They've done very well, but United are also in a bit of a down place. So you've got to credit Tottenham, but you can't beat United and then have what happened yesterday. So they go 2-0 in front. Brennan Johnson puts them in front. Brilliant goal. And Maddison makes it 2-0. And you think this is such a dominant first half. And you think there's only one team. I thought there was only one team that was going to win that game from that first half at half-time. But then I forgot I was watching Tottenham. Anything can happen. So we'll get into it. Out of nothing, down the wing for Brighton. I can't remember who it was. Porro's just left the winger. A cross comes in, no one deals with the cross. It comes to Udogie, and Udogie just gives it to Minter, and it's 2-1 out of nothing. It's embarrassing defending, and I've said this about Udogie and Porro for that matter. They're very good going forward. They cannot defend. I've said this for ages. They cannot defend, and that was proof of it. That was embarrassing. And out of nothing, you have such a dominant first half. How can you then, out of nothing, just concede a goal and automatically then you've got the crowd up? It's embarrassing. How many more mistakes does Udogie need to make for people to realise? But because he's good going forward, people don't talk about it. He can't defend. Then out of nothing, it's 2-2. Ruter scores, and it's honestly what I want to know about that goal. I've said enough about Romero, but I don't think it is enough. I don't think it will ever be enough. Romero has got to be the most overrated defender I've ever come across in my life. He is shocking. Shocking. He's a shocking defender. He's rash, he ball watches, and I watched that second goal, and every time I watch it, it gets worse and worse and worse. How on earth can Bentancur be deeper than Romero when Ruter puts that in the goal? How? Van der Ven and Udogie are trying to like deal with it. Romero is higher up than three players. He's a centre back. It's honestly, it's a joke. And it's 2-2 out of nothing. And then that third goal just sums it up. You look at I think it was Ruter? Yeah, it was Ruter on the right. He's got Udogie, Maddison, and who was it? It was Bentancur around him. He gets through him, and then Bentancur, how he's allowed Ruter to put a cross in, not even a challenge, not even a tackle, just allows him to put a cross in. He's skinned three players, and go and watch the header from Danny Welbeck. Romero is literally ball watching. All right, he's expecting Bentancur to make the tackle. He is expecting that, so he's not. But still, you're a centre half, and look, he's ball watching. Suddenly the cross comes in, he panics. Welbeck's in front of him, gets a header. Honestly, it's the same old problems for Tottenham. They can be so good going forward, and defensively they're just soft as fuck, so soft. It's embarrassing. And then there you go. You've lost the game 3-2, and it's the same problems for Tottenham, and these problems date well far back. Honestly, back to the summer. It's not one of those fluky games, and this has not surprised me one bit. I've done a video actually. I've done a couple of videos in the summer, and I said Tottenham are not prepared for this season. They needed to strengthen. Last season, I was so complimentary in the first half of the season. I thought Spurs were doing brilliant things under Ange, and I was so complimentary. It's not an agenda. I can praise Tottenham when they're doing stuff well. And this goes back even to the Pochettino era. I thought Pochettino done really good things at Tottenham, and they were better than us for 6 years. But anyway, back onto this. They were done brilliantly for the first half of last season, but in the second half of last season, even though they still came fifth, they were getting worse. They were getting worse. They were dropping points in the form table from the second half of last season. Tottenham were around 7th or 8th. So if that's the case and you're finishing 5th in the table, that's a false dawn. That means you've got to strengthen because you're not doing enough. And it's it was basically a summer where Tottenham needed to buy some senior players, because even though they fell short towards the end of last season, there was still a lot of positive signs. Young team. They just needed a few senior pros, about 3 senior players to be brought in. Daniel Levy needed to go at it again and say, okay, we came 5th, but we're getting worse towards the end of last season. We need to strengthen. He went and bought 3 18-year-old kids, one of them for 40 million, who's never played in the Premier League, Archie Gray. He might have played one. I can't remember if he's played once, maybe in the season Leeds got relegated, but he was a championship player last season. And they bought 3 18-year-old kids, Archie Gray, Bergvall, and this Korean lad who's not. When is he even joining Spurs? Is it January? No one's even heard of this guy. You can't come 5th in the table and buy 3 18-year-old kids who are not proven. And then they bought Dominic Solanke. I was like, okay, do you know what? For Spurs, that's good. They're bringing in Solanke. That's good. Bring in some more. They're bringing in Odegaard, who, again, talented player, but he's a kid. He's a young kid. Timo Werner was at the club last season. Why is it that every time Tottenham get close to improving, they never go that step further and try and progress the club even further? Honestly, and I was getting dog's abuse for those videos in the summer. Before a ball had been kicked, all the Tottenham fans were just abusing me, just saying, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, you're just an Arsenal fan. They didn't realise it was coming from a neutral place. I saw this was going to come. You can't just keep not backing the team when it matters. You can't. Say when you're on about Højbjerg. I never rated Højbjerg, but what he was a senior player who, in certain games, would just help Spurs grind certain results because he was just, he had experience. That team has hardly any experience. It needed more experience. And Tottenham didn't strengthen, and look at it now. It's the same problems, it's inconsistencies. There's so much good about Tottenham, but there's so much bad as well. And hopefully now those people who are, saying I was talking shit in the summer are starting to realise what I was saying. They needed to strengthen with some senior players, and they didn't. They didn't do it. And they're going to pay the price because there's some talented players in there and they're going to get held back. They're going to keep getting held back, and it's the same problems. But defensively is the main issue. My word, honestly, Romero is just a shocking defender. And I tell you what, you'll notice that I haven't blamed Van der Ven for any, because Van der Ven was also a little bit of fault for some of the goals. But Van der Ven has been carrying that defence, and he's not exactly the oldest either, has been carrying that defence for too long now. Too long. He didn't have a great game yesterday, but you'll not hear me batter Van der Ven because he has been remarkable since he's joined Tottenham. But he's been let down by 2 fullbacks who can't defend, and Romero, you will never win anything with Romero in your team. He's a loose cannon. Seriously, he ball watches. He's rash when he doesn't need to. He's a shambolic defender. And as for the goalkeeper, I've seen the goalkeeper batter Bergvall against Leicester. Sorry, at the first game of the season, he screams and shouts and digs out Bergvall. Didn't see him dig many players out yesterday. Any individuals. He threw his arms up in the air and had a little hissy fit, but he didn't grab any Tottenham players personally and call them out. But with an 18-year-old kid on his debut, he's happy to do that. Vicaria, another one, fucking just not as good as people make out. Very overrated. And that's where Tottenham are going to fall short. It's that defence and it's lack of senior pros. But because I think last week at United, I thought the Bentancur, Kulusevski, Maddison three actually worked quite well. It's nothing against Tottenham going forward because I think Maddison, who doesn't love James Maddison? He's a fantastic player. Kulusevski in more of a central role looks better. Bentancur isn't. I don't think he's a holding midfielder, and he's playing there. And I don't even think he's the major issue. Like I said, he was deeper than Romero for that second goal. Embarrassing. And going forward, there's Werner. All right, Werner's Werner. Listen, but he's lightning quick. He's good in the transitions. Solanke's a good forward player, and Brennan Johnson's in form. It's a bit of an issue, obviously Werner being on the left, but Son's injured. But that's a bit of an issue. But the main issue is that defence. It's that defence, and it's the lack of senior players. When the going gets tough, when Brighton got that first goal, there was no senior players to grab that game. Bentancur's a senior player, but there's not enough of them. There's not enough, and there's not enough on the bench either. Because they've got Son injured, Richarlison injured. Tottenham are paying the price for lack of investment in the summer, and if they don't address that in January, they're going to have a poor season. And it didn't need to be like that. Tottenham came fifth last season with a lot of positivity in the team. They just needed a bit of help, and they didn't do that. Classic Daniel Levy, penny pinching, trying to go for young players for big money just to increase the value so that when he wants to sell them on, they go for bigger money. Honestly, same problems. Tottenham are going to keep experiencing this. They're going to keep having great results like they battered United. They'll give a lot of teams a hiding this season, but they'll also have a lot of times where they just bottle games like they did yesterday. And hopefully now the people that were giving me shit in the summer are starting to see that Tottenham Hotspur now have really fucked up their chance of trying to improve the team this season. To go from fifth to try and kick on, to go further, it won't happen. And don't be surprised if Tottenham comes seventh or eighth, like I said.